On today's episode of the Mark Titus Show, the Big East is out of control. The Big East basketball. This is why coming into the season, I was saying I think the Big 12 will end up being the best conference, and it is, and I think all the metrics are reflecting that. And if you want to be taken seriously as a college basketball nerd, you have to say the Big 12 is the best conference. But I said before the season, and boy, so far it's proving to be true that I think the Big East is going to be more interesting. And coming into the Big East season this year, we have three teams with national title aspirations. John Fanta, I think when he came on the show, he tried to sneak Villanova in there. Maybe Villanova will eventually play their way back into being in that mix, but beating Creighton and Omaha isn't quite enough yet. But Villanova, I can't make any sense of. We'll get to that soon enough. But you got UConn, you got Marquette, you got Creighton. Those are the three. And most people seem to believe that there's a little bit of a drop-off how good Villanova is, which Villanova team shows up. If Villanova's playing a team from Philadelphia, forget about it. But if they're not, maybe they're knocking on that door to be up in the upper echelon. Providence has a good team. There are other good teams in the Big East, but it felt like that was the top group, and then there was everybody else. Those top three, 0-1 in Big East play. All of them lose their Big East opener. And here we are. Now all of a sudden the Big East, I don't want to say it's completely wide open, a ton of basketball left to be played, but boy, Wednesday was a lot of fun. A lot of fun in college basketball. You got Villanova Creighton choking away a 14-point lead against Villanova on Doug McDermott night. Seton Hall with the big upset over UConn, which didn't really feel like an upset. It does in the larger picture, but if you were just watching that game and you had no context whatsoever about which of these two teams won a national title last year and all that, you would not have felt like that was an upset at all. I mean, Seton Hall just completely punked them from start to finish. Frank the Tank is joining us, by the way. Frank the Tank Fleming, who everybody already knows, he's an absolute legend. Seton Hall super fan. I got him on the show he was at the game last night. The cameramen had to have known, TJ. They had to know what they were doing, right? They kept cutting to Frank like crazy, going in and out of commercial, dapping up Seton Hall players. So I had Frank on the show to talk about the big win for the Pirates last night against UConn. But yeah, the Big East play, Marquette losing to Providence, Creighton losing to Villanova, UConn losing to Seton Hall. Other games going on, Duke Baylor in Madison Square Garden. Duke looked really good. I do not like this Baylor team at all. I like watching that. We'll talk about it. I do not trust them to win basketball games, but they can be fun to watch. Carolina is a team I really like. North Carolina, I'm slowly talking myself into being something special. They got work to do, but beat Oklahoma. Oklahoma is no longer undefeated. Arizona versus Alabama was a disgusting game, but we'll talk about that. Really fun night in college basketball on Wednesday. We're going to break it all down, but we're going to start with the Big East because it is shaping up to be a very, very fun season in the Big East. But yeah, we'll talk about all the action. Let's get into it. All right, let's start with UConn Seton Hall. I think that was the big head scratcher for me, at least. From Wednesday night. So Seton Hall wins 75-60. Donovan Clingan rolls his ankle early in the second half. Does not come back. And as much as I want to use that as an excuse for UConn, in the same way that I kind of would use that as an excuse when UConn lost at Kansas, and I didn't want to really overreact because Kansas is the preseason number one team in the country, and it's Allen Fieldhouse, and Stephon Castle's out, and Cam Spencer rolled his ankle early in that game, and I kind of tried to provide context to that, and still UConn played pretty well, and it was close in the end, and sometimes you just lose basketball games. This was not that for me. Donovan Clingan going out was not the reason that UConn lost this game. UConn, from start to finish, looked like they had better things to do than play basketball. It was pretty shocking, to be honest, and it shouldn't be, I guess, because UConn, I didn't realize this till last night, UConn just loses every single Big East opener. I really, really need someone to explain to me what the hell's going on with that. Like, why UConn, the same thing happened last year. It was like maybe, I don't think they lost the opener. I think they beat Butler, if I remember right, but it was like a couple weeks later than we're at in the schedule right now, but it was like almost the end of the calendar year, right as January was approaching, and then all through January, UConn stunk, and Tristan Newton didn't play well, which he didn't play well against Seton Hall. And that was when I last year was really starting to doubt, because UConn looked so good in non-conference play last year, and then conference play rolls around, and the wheels just completely fall off, and they look like a completely different team. And it's not just that they're losing games, and it's not like a deal where you were just saying listen, the Big East is really deep, and you're going to have ups and downs throughout a season, and this is just one of the down periods for them, and they're going to get it back. Like, it was how they were losing those games last year, and the same thing was happening against Seton Hall, where it's like, I don't mind. Like, Seton Hall is not a bad team. This was a huge win for Seton. Seton Hall beat UConn last year, if memory serves. But yeah, Seton Hall's got a good thing going, and Holloway is a great coach. And I'll save like my Seton Hall thoughts for Frank when Frank comes on. But it's not in a vacuum. This was not an embarrassing loss. It was more like how it played out. It was that UConn was running offense, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 feet further out than what they wanted to. Like, Seton Hall was dictating the terms of everything about this game, that UConn couldn't even complete like simple guard-to-guard passes without bobbling the ball, without like, they bobble the pass, it bounces a couple times towards the backcourt, a guy scoops it up, and then they look up and Seton Hall is like crawled up into their ass, and now all of a sudden they're running offense from like 35 feet away. That like kept happening over and over and over again. They're bricking wide open shots. There was just like zero juice whatsoever, to the point that like, if I'm Danny Hurley after this game, I don't even know if I get mad at the team. Like, this reached a level for me where it's like, I'm not even angry, I'm just disappointed. That's my messaging to the team. Because I was frustrated watching it as a fan. Like, the broadcast was doing all they could to be like, UConn down by 12 with 4 minutes left, or whatever the scenario was. We'll come back to see if they got one last push, and they're like doing their best to be like, obviously this UConn team just won a national championship. Obviously they're super talented, one of the best teams in the country. Folks, do not change the channel. They just might flip that switch late and come back and win this thing. And I'm watching it thinking, there's no way they're going to do that. They have shown zero signs of life in this game. And that's what ended up happening. They're 4 for 21 from 3. Caravan was bricking wide open. It was just like all the way down the roster. I know Newton had like a decent stat line. He had 6 turnovers though. But if you're watching the game, maybe that's a sign of how good Tristan Newton has been, that he can score 16 points and be 5 for 12 from the field, have 6 rebounds, and I walk away thinking he had an absolute stinker of a game. But that's what my eyes told me, is like, UConn did not want to be there. UConn had zero respect for their opponent or for playing the game, and that happens. This is the time of year where wild shit does happen in college basketball. Holiday distractions and finals and all of that stuff that feels stupid on the outside is very real on the inside, like inside locker rooms. But yeah, if you're watching all of these games, just throwing it on your television in a vacuum, you do not necessarily think about like the weeks that all the week that was leading up to this game and the finals, and the girlfriend is being very conspicuous about what's on her Christmas list, and now we're stressing about that. Like, we got to get her a Christmas present, and mom's calling asking, do you know what time you're practicing on Christmas Eve? Because I was hoping maybe you'd be able to come home for Christmas, and maybe we could have a family dinner before you have to go back for practice. And he's not going to give you any time off. Oh, it depends on how you play this game. All this shit going on, a lot of distractions. People do forget these are student athletes. They are student athletes, student first. Yeah, and all that sounds insane, and the more you talk about it, the more you start to like want to roll your eyes at that sort of thing. But from experience, I can tell you that Christmas weeks do get very, very wonky, and I think a lot of the results around college basketball are proving that, and teams just like not looking like themselves. And that's what I hope is going on with UConn. But the problem with that is, like, last year they did have that dip, and I think UConn fans, I know Danny Hurley doesn't think this way, at least I hope he doesn't, but UConn fans maybe, or even just neutral observers might be saying they'll be fine. They did this last year. They started shitting the bed around January. They turned it on, and then they waxed everybody in the NCAA tournament. And that is true. That's exactly what happened. And so far this season looks very similar to last year's UConn season. But that is a dangerous trap to me. I think if you are planning to flip the switch, that's not a smart way to go about it. I think there are teams that can flip the switch, but I don't think that is plan A. I think that is like an emergency, we got to figure some stuff out. Our backs are against the wall. We have to start playing better. We have to call a players-only meeting, which have a 100% hit rate, as everybody knows. I think if that is how you get to a point where you're flipping the proverbial switch, that's a completely different thing than like, yeah, fuck it, we'll be fine. Why don't we just coast for a little while? Because we did this last year, and we can just kind of we can show up on the road at Seton Hall and and give a 70% effort. And I'm sure we're better than them, So, like, I mean, we won the national championship last year. We'll be fine. And even if we lose, who cares? We can lose 5 or 6 out of 8. And when mid-February rolls around, we'll turn it back on and we'll go win a national championship. I do think UConn is capable of that. I mean, they proved it last year. I do think this team is still one of the best teams in the country, but I did not like that whatsoever, what I saw last night. Stinky doo-doo. Stinky doo-doo from UConn. It was just disappointing because I want to see them actually bring some juice, and to me, that would be my messaging. If I was Danny Hurley, I would have walked in the locker room and just had like a disgusted look on my face. They would have anticipated me screaming my head off at them for giving no effort whatsoever and just getting completely punked from start to finish. But I wouldn't have done that. I would have just been like, you guys disgust me. I would just like softly just been like, you disgust me. We're not. You know what I would have done? Has anyone ever tried this? I don't know if can you legally take away showers? Do you think, TJ? Like, I feel like
you would know better than me. I think you've been
like if you. But I've never heard of this used as a tactic. But like now I'm thinking about it. Like, what if you're a coach and you're like, I want this stench to linger, so we're not showering. We're just getting right on the butt. Yeah, that's happened before, right?
Is this as an offensive tactic, like a chemical warfare device? Play,
no, it's more of like
stink our opponents out, or
no, it's more of like you guys stunk tonight, and I want you to sit in your own stench as we get on the team bus and then fly back to UConn. Or drive back, I guess. I don't know. They probably drove. I want you guys to sit in your own stench. I'm trying to think of how I handle it, because like this was such a piss poor effort that I think yelling and screaming doesn't even get it done. I think you do like the. Oh God, dude, I feel bad for those UConn players that are gonna have to
stink.
They have another game though, right? They play St. John's, so I think they are good to salvage. But dude, losing like that before Christmas fucking sucks, dude. Because then you're practicing at noon on Christmas Day, and we in 2007 we lost to Florida. The year we lost them in the national championship, we lost to them December like 23rd, 22nd, something like that, in Gainesville by 1,000. And that's not even hyperbole. It was 1,000 points they beat us by. And oh my God, that was the most miserable Christmas of my life. That was I don't think we had 1 second off. I think we just went like straight to running sprints right after that. It sucks, but UConn does have another game. They do play St. John's at home, so hopefully for the players' sake they can pull their heads out of their asses. But yeah, shout out to Seton Hall. Like I said, we'll talk to Frank about the Seton Hall part of it all. But UConn was very disappointed with their effort in that game. Villanova Creighton. I think I'm done with Creighton. I think Creighton, you could stamp it, they're frauds. I don't think Creighton's getting it back. I don't think. I don't. Creighton doesn't have a path. I know that's my thing on Mostly Sports. I love pointing out who has a path and who doesn't. I don't. Creighton just as a team, like Kalkbrenner, I don't know, dude. I don't want to be too mean, but like, I just go fucking crazy sometimes watching Creighton basketball, because like they don't have the killer instinct. They don't have the heart. They don't have they can be very, very good, and at times when the Creighton offense is rolling through the years, they look so good, but this how many times do you have to see this where they're up by like 14 against a shorthanded Villanova team? By the way, they didn't even have their best player. Justin Moore wasn't even playing in this game. And Eric Dixon just completely dominates. 32 points, 4 for 10 from 3. He does this to Creighton every single time. Kalkbrenner, he pulls him out from underneath the basket. Creighton looks completely lost. If Kalkbrenner is such a good rim protector, I don't know what else he does that I get excited about. And granted, being a big guy and being a good rim protector, that's kind of 85% of your job. So like that's why I don't want to be too mean, because that's basically the bulk. That's the meat and potatoes of why he's out there, is to be a rim protector. But having said all that, if you're going in, if you have a matchup where Eric Dixon, is pulling you away from the basket, and you're not really rim protecting anymore, what are we doing? What is Creighton as a defense doing? What is Creighton as an offense just like continue like down the stretch? So impatient, like so obviously frustrated by Villanova played incredible defense, but like Villanova slowing the game down on purpose, like as they do. I mean, they this is a tried and true method for Villanova. But they slow the game down. Creighton has to know that they're going to slow the game down, and they just fall right into the trap of just getting frustrated as shit on offense. Defense, they're completely lost. I don't know. I just the Ashworth kid was supposed to fill in for Nimhard and provide the backfill for losing their starting point guard from how good the team was last year. The team last year was good enough to win a national championship. I will forever believe that. I don't see it with this team so far. I don't know how they're gonna convince me otherwise. I love Baylor Shireman. I love Trey Alexander. I don't really love the rest of the team, if I'm being completely honest. Kalkbrenner is a good rim protector. Kalkbrenner can block a lot of shots. Kalkbrenner can also get pushed around a little bit when he's trying to post up. Kalkbrenner can also be a turnover machine. Kalkbrenner, I don't want to say he's soft, but he's just like not. He can get pushed around way too easily for a guy that's supposed to be a big dominant force down low for Creighton. The Creighton part of it, like I still think they're a good team. I still think that they can beat anybody on any given night. I don't mean to say that they're, not capable of going to the Sweet 16 or something. But this idea that there's 3 serious national title contenders in the Big East with UConn and Marquette and Creighton, I don't believe that. I think it's UConn and honestly Marquette with the way they played against Providence. Which again, it's a road game in conference, starting out conference play. It's a wonky all of those things are we're taking it into account. It's just you want to see growth with teams. You want to see teams like Marquette. I would have hoped that they are mature enough to understand what this week can be in the college basketball schedule. You would hope that like going on the road at Wisconsin and playing like shit and losing that game would kind of wake them up a little bit. And I say this like with the standard of a national champion and with a team that's an elite team, which might be unfair for a lot of teams, but Marquette to me, they have those aspirations, and that's what they want to be. They want to be a team that when people say there are no great teams in college basketball this year, Marquette's in the back of the room raising their hand saying, "What about us? We are that great team." And losing like they did to Providence, where they got absolutely. I mean, it was kind of like what the UConn situation was, where there's just no juice whatsoever. Start to finish, Providence is dominating the game. Marquette's getting punked a little bit, and it's very, very disappointing, and that's. So I don't know who really is. UConn is going to be a national title contender, I think, until they have to lose a lot of games for me to change that. Just because they won it last year and their core, it's not they have enough of a core back, and I think this team that I've seen so far in the season does look similar enough. I think the roles that were played last year by Sanogo, Klingon does fill the Sanogo role enough, and Samson Johnson does fill the Klingon role enough, and Cam Spencer is not Jordan Hawkins, but like he is close enough, and all of those things like feel close enough to where having seen UConn win a national championship last year, I have no choice but to believe that they, no matter what happens, and if they do give half-assed effort, they still will be a national title contender all season. Marquette and Creighton are going to have to prove it to me throughout the year, and their opening games in Big East play, they certainly did not do that. But shout out to Villanova for they just looked like a vintage Villanova type win, where not necessarily being down 14, but just down the stretch, they were in total control of that game. They were dictating the terms of the game. Eric Dick. Why do I keep wanting to call him Eric Dickinson? I mean, it's pretty obvious. It's because Hunter Dickinson's on the mind. I can't get Hunter. Hunter is.
You love him.
I fucking love him, dude. I think I might love him. Eric Dixon was awesome, and Villanova continues to be very, very confusing because they have now lost to Penn, they have lost to St. Joseph's, they have lost to Drexel, they have lost to Kansas State, but they have also beaten UCLA, who kind of stinks, by the way. UCLA losing to Northridge, but UCLA has a ton of talent, and they beat them easily. They went at Creighton. They beat North Carolina. They beat the shit out of Maryland, who's not awesome, but is a power conference team with some decent players. They beat the shit out of Texas Tech. They beat Memphis. Villanova's got the weirdest run here. I would love to see Villanova find some level ground, so we can sort of figure out who they are as a team. But huge win for them to come back. on Doug McDermott night, I can't believe Doug McDermott didn't have his jersey already retired. If he feels like a guy who, how does that work though? Like, what's the grace period on that? Is it just a matter of we have to wait until the NBA schedule allows for a night that he can come back? Maybe it's just that. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but in my mind, it's like, what are they waiting to see if he commits a heinous crime before they retire his jersey? Like, how is his jersey not retired like the day he graduates? I don't get it.
The banners are so wild, wild west, especially in college. I feel like there are no rules. What does Ohio State's banner situation look like?
Our retired jerseys are, I think, for just national. You have to win a National Player of the Year award. So we have a lot of great players that have not had their jersey retired, and then we also have Evan Turner's jersey retired. So it's a little bit of a confusing situation because, Indiana doesn't retire any jerseys, and that's become like a point of pride of theirs. There's like 0 jerseys hanging in Assembly Hall. North Carolina doesn't. They have retired jerseys. But then they also will hang a jersey for like every All-American. So you go to the Dean Dome, there are 1,000 jerseys hanging. And it's really, I don't know, it is kind of cool. It's just like kind of if you're someone that's not used to seeing a bunch of jerseys, it is a little bit of a shock. And there is that part of your brain that's like, what are we giving out participation trophies to everybody? But then the Carolina fans will tell you, no, that's actually a flex because we're flexing how many All-Americans we have. And when you look up there and you see 1,000 jerseys, it reminds you that we're dominant. And, that makes a lot of sense to me as well. Speaking of North Carolina, Carolina hands Oklahoma their first loss in Charlotte in the Jumpman Classic, Jordan Brand, whatever the hell they're called, Jumpman Invitational. I like this Carolina team. I think Carolina defensively has to get better. I think the show we did earlier. So I know they lost to Kentucky, but the show I did on Tuesday, talking about R.J. Davis and Armando Bacot. I think they're kind of figuring this out. Like Bacot played the best game. This was the game that I want to see out of Armando Bacot. He had 14 points. He had he did have 3 turnovers, but whatever. 3 block shots, 8 rebounds. He's 4 for 9 from the field. I think Armando Bacot is a very, very, very good player. I think if Armando Bacot is your best player, you have a very obvious ceiling, and you need great guard play, and that's been evident to me for a while. And R.J. Davis is playing out of his mind right now. He's playing first-team All-American level of basketball, and the pieces around him. Cormac Ryan, when he's hot from threes, he's been a little streaky, but when he gets going, and I think Cadeau is awesome. I think Cadeau had a really, really bad moment against Kentucky when he had the turnover at the end of the game, but everything else I've seen out of the kid, he's got that like natural point guard instinct where he's trying to set up the offense, and that's a very, very hard role, man. Playing point guard in North Carolina might be the most difficult position in college basketball, really. I mean, the Carolina system of the secondary, running the breaks, and trying to get all the guys involved and dictating tempo. You want to push the tempo, obviously. That's Carolina basketball, but we don't want to be out of control. And to have a true freshman step in, I think he's been awesome. And I say that, like in this game, he had 7 points and 1 assist. And if you're a box score bozo, you look at it and you're like, I mean, he really. 3 fouls and 2 turnovers, and so like that's the stat line that it is. I think him replacing Caleb Love is the difference for North Carolina. It's not the only thing that's different about this team. They brought in some other guys. They've I'm sure the guys that were there last year and were there for the end of Coach K when that team goes on that run to the national championship game. I'm sure even those guys did some soul searching in the offseason and whatever else. So I don't mean to say it's just like a one-to-one thing of Cadeau came in, Caleb Love went out, and now it's everything else is the exact same. But that jumps out to me when I watch Carolina is the roles are way more defined. I do think that defensively they've got to get better. But I like what I see out of Carolina, especially on the offensive end. I think R.J. Davis there might be a belief that at some point he's going to slow down because he is on an absolute scoring tear right now. And if he doesn't slow down, if he keeps scoring a lot, does the efficiency slow down? Does he start scoring 27 points, but now all of a sudden he's taking 22 shots to get those 27 points? I don't know. Maybe that is a concern, but this run that they've been on, Carolina has had a really, really tough schedule, and he's been awesome, and they've played great basketball. They haven't won all the games, but I really like what I'm seeing out of Carolina. I think this they have the pieces and have the look of a team. This could be their best team since like the 2019 Kobe White team. Because the 2020 the team that goes to the national championship was not. They were an 8 seed. They were not that great throughout the year. I think this team could be better. Will they go to the national championship? I'm not dumb enough to say that. I wouldn't say that about any team in college basketball before Christmas. But yeah, I really like what I'm seeing out of Carolina. Oklahoma, 10-0 is cool. They're not a bad team. They are very. I think being ranked 7th in the country. I think Porter Moser would have told you that seems a little crazy, but by virtue of just kind of being undefeated and they have beat some good teams. I don't think it was an undeserved ranking. I just think it was like when I turned on the game and I saw 7 next to Oklahoma, and then you're watching the broadcast and they just keep talking about how like Oklahoma is winning with team defense and they don't really have a ton of great offensive talent individually, and I'm just kind of scratching my head like, this is number 7 in the country feels like a lofty ranking, but I like Oklahoma's defense. They do play great team defense. I like Porter Moser. I think he's a great coach. Being completely honest, and I think that's what my job is supposed to be when we do these shows, I am a little worried about where the season might go for Oklahoma. I am a little worried about, we start to get into Big 12 play and Oklahoma starts to really get challenged. Oklahoma, their wins are a close win over USC, who's not that great. They did beat the piss out of Providence. I'll give them that. They beat Iowa. Iowa's not that great. So you're looking at like this they beat Arkansas by 9. All of these teams they kind of had like the same thing of what I said about Houston, I think on Tuesday, where it's like, I don't want to say you're playing a cupcake schedule. That's not fair. I'm not saying that you're just beating the snot out of these MEAC teams and puffing your chest and saying we're 10-0. But at the same time, like, are you going up against the elite of the elite teams in college basketball, the teams that we believe to be the best teams in college basketball? And they really hadn't until they played in North Carolina, and North Carolina looked like the obvious better team. But that, at the same time, you don't want to overreact to one game. So we will see. But if I am being completely honest, Oklahoma to me does not have a ton of talent, I guess. I mean, like they don't. There aren't guys that jump out at you as like that guy is going to carry them, and when they're scoring droughts, that guy's going to play in the league. Things can change. I'm not a draft expert. I don't fucking know what the hell I'm talking about with these guys half the time. But I'm just telling you from what I've watched of Oklahoma, they're winning with team defense, which is great. I mean, there are a ton of success stories in college basketball of teams that maybe aren't great offensively but win with team defense. What I'm worried about is the Big 12 is deep as shit, and we're coming up quickly on a Big 12 season where they have Central Arkansas, they have Monmouth, then you have Iowa State at TCU at Kansas, and I opening it up with that is brutal. West Virginia at home, at Cincinnati, Texas. I mean, it just on and on as the Big 12 gets. As the Big 12 is every year, it just gets really, really dicey. And I don't know. We'll see. I'm holding off judgment at Oklahoma, but if I'm being completely honest, and it's unfair to Oklahoma fans, and I really genuinely do hate doing this because I know what it's like to be in the shoes of an Oklahoma fan and be excited about your team, and it's a pleasant surprise to be 10-0 and be like, damn, we're 7th in the country. This is fucking awesome. And then you have some dipshit in a Santa hat and a Chili's jersey on a podcast that's like, I don't know, man. I don't think Oklahoma's that good. I get it. It sucks. You don't want to hear that. You want to be excited about your team, and you don't want people to just shit all over. But if I'm being honest, like I don't think Oklahoma's the 7th best team in the country. I don't think they're close to it. That's how I feel. Other games going on. Duke Baylor. I kind of hate this Baylor team as a basketball team. I like them as an entertainment product. But they, using the terminology I used for the Seton Hall UConn game and Villanova Creighton down the stretch, you want to see teams dictate the terms of games. Like the best teams in college basketball are dictating the terms. That is across the board. Whether you are a team that is like, we want to turn everything into a rock fight and we want to win a game in the 40s and just beat the shit out of the other team, or you're a team like Alabama that wants to jack up a ton of threes, or you're a team like, a Carolina that wants to push pace, or Virginia slow it down, whatever your system is, whatever your culture is within your program, every single team that believes themselves to be a good basketball team is going into every single game saying we are dictating the terms. This is how it's going to be. We play this style of basketball, and our goal tonight is to get the other team to play this style of basketball because we play this style better than they play this style, and we are going to dictate the terms from start to finish. I get zero of that from Baylor. Every time I watch Baylor, they are just like going with the flow of whatever. They let the other team dictate the terms of the game, and then they respond to that. And they respond successfully oftentimes because they are a very talented team, and they are a guard-oriented team, which works in college basketball in this era of three-point shooting and driving and kicking and all that. So, yeah, they still find success, but that's what jumps out to me when I watch Baylor is like they are very much on the back foot just reacting and very content with just jacking up. They only shot 18 threes. I mean, if you're pointing to a team that jacks up threes, you talk about Alabama, which we will in a second. I don't mean to say that they just come down and throw up, but they are just like so comfortable with losing. I like being down in games and like letting teams go on runs and like they just don't dictate their terms. And I don't think they play awesome defense. I know they had 7 blocks. The big guy was blocking every single shot that especially in the first half that Duke was taking to the rim. But that's what jumps out to me with Baylor is like there's a ton of talent there. I like Ray J. Dennett. Jacoby Walters is probably the most fun freshman to watch in the country if I really thought about it, other than Reed Shepherd and the Kentucky guys. Jacoby Walter, he's an awesome talent. I really, really like watching him. But Baylor as a team, and this is true 2 years in a row. I mean, last year, Keontae George and L.J. Cryer, like that team was so good, and they could pour in points in a hurry, and they are so fun to watch. But, like, as you're watching, you're just like, it feels like they're just kind of playing pickup basketball, which I get, it's fun. It's fun. I like that. But if you have serious aspirations of, like, pulling off some championships here, like we gotta get our shit together, man. And that's where I'm at with Baylor. So I don't know. They're gonna be fine in Big 12 play. They're gonna probably beat Kansas and Houston and have wins where they're just red hot. But there's a cultural problem to me, and I don't mean like fire Scott. I don't mean like that. I just mean like within what this team is, they just kind of have no identity other than like we love to shoot jump shots and we love to. We love to give our guards freedom, which is cool, but like you need more than that. And also, if you're going to be that, then I need you dictating those terms every single time you step on the court, because you got to be damn sure every time you're going out onto the court that's what that game is going to be. And Duke was just in control of this game for me, even though it was a close game. I felt like Duke was playing it on their terms, and Filipowski was awesome, and Jared McCain was awesome, and I do like this Duke team, even though I have said so far this season I think they're soft as well. I still think they're supremely talented, and they kind of feel like Alabama football this year, where you give up on them early because they lose to Georgia Tech. I'm talking about Duke now, not Alabama, but like the way Alabama football lost earlier this year, and they're like, we can just cast them aside. We don't have to worry about them. And then now Alabama's playing for a national championship. Duke feels like a team that's going to be around. Like, I mean, they're going to lose a couple games in the ACC, sure, and everyone will fall into the trap of saying they're done and they're disappointing. But yeah, when March rolls around, Duke's very much going to be a factor. Anything else? Arizona-Alabama game was one of the grossest games of basketball ever, and I'm so mad because I stayed up late, 1, to watch it, and 2, this should have been the most fun game of the season in college basketball, really. Arizona and Alabama get up and down, great offenses for both teams, a ton of playmaking on the offensive end for both teams. I don't know. I think I might just have my fill of Alabama basketball. I have nothing against Nate Oates, really. I don't want to start a fight with Rico. I know Nate Oates is Rico's guy, but I just can't. The way Alabama lost in the NCAA tournament last year to San Diego State, where they just refuse to take anything other than a 3 or a layup because like Nate Oates is like, I'm smarter than everybody and I figured out the analytics. So we're just going to continue to jack up threes, miss them, and then when we miss them, we're going to drive to the rim and get our shot blocked. Oh shit, we just got our shot blocked. All right, now let's go throw up another 3. And they kept doing that over and over, and then looking at the bench like, Coach, why is this not working? And it's because you were getting wide open like 7-foot pull-ups that you just simply would not take. I'm just over the Alabama basketball experience in general. Like I get what they're doing. I'm not too stupid to understand what's going on, that the analytics say shoot threes or layups, get to the rim or put up jump shots, or 3 points, no long twos, no mid-range, all that sort of shit. It is just absolutely brutal to watch when it's a game like this and they can't hit anything, and the refs are calling every single foul both ways. It was just a mess. Arizona didn't even play particularly well. There were, for those who didn't watch the game, there were 57 three-point attempts. 12 of them were made. 12 for 57, these two teams combined from 3. In a regulation game, this did not go into like 4 overtimes. There were 32 turnovers between the two teams. There were 45 fouls, and there were, by my math, 63 free throws shot in this game. It was disgusting basketball. And if you didn't watch a second of it and you just saw the score, you woke up and you saw that Arizona won 87-74 against Alabama, you might think, wow, what a fun game that probably was. A track meet. They got up and down. And it was not that. It was very, very gross. Arizona's defense didn't really play that well, but you know, I thought that was going to be one of the big differences with this Arizona team. I talked to Wild Bags about it. I like Arizona's defense long term. They haven't looked great defensively against Alabama and Purdue, but Alabama and Purdue have maybe the top 2 offenses in college basketball, so I don't want to overreact to that. But Arizona's not even looking all that great, and they beat a good Alabama team. I know Alabama's 6-5, but they are. I do still trust in them winning games and being competitive and getting into the tournament. They'll be ranked again at some point this season, but as a viewing experience, I'm just kind of out on it. I just don't really want to watch. I can't watch last night. I'm not staying up late to watch what Alabama put out onto the court last night. That was disgusting. All right, enough of that. Let's talk to Frank the Tank. All right, Frank the Tank is here. He was at the Seton Hall UConn game last night. Seton Hall dominates UConn. This is the 3rd year in a row I think Seton Hall has beaten UConn at home.
Yeah,
you're getting a lot of TV time, Frank, sitting courtside. Where would you give us a 1 to 10 your Seton Hall basketball fandom? Because every time they showed you on camera, you looked like you were like 10 out of 10 into the moment of Seton Hall pulling off the upset.
I'm definitely like an 8 at least. I've been following Seton Hall since the 1989 Final Four. I mean, that's kind of like the first year I really got into the tournament, really got pumped watching the tournament, watching that run. I was 13 at the time, so I got to watch that, and I'm still bitter over that phantom foul call at the end of the game, at the end of the championship game.
Yeah, I am aware of that, and I wasn't even that old when it happened, but I knew that Seton Hall got job. We lost to Michigan, right? It was like the Glenn Rice Michigan team. PJ Carlissimo.
That was, Steve Fisher, interim coach.
Yeah. So what was last night like? Like the crowd was into it. This is we're feeling the Seton Hall team. We feel like this wasn't a blip, that you can expect more good moments out of these guys.
Well, I went to the Rutgers game and it was a totally different experience. They kind of stunk up the joint that night.
Yeah. Do they go ahead.
I think yesterday they came out, they played hard. They played really good defense. And they kind of got a UConn team that was kind of flat. They got a UConn team that, you know, it's winter break, and maybe a few players are thinking more about Jingle Bell Rock than handling the rock. And then Donovan Clingan got twisted his ankle, and he missed the game. I mean, in fact, Donovan Clingan was dominating the game. Whenever he was on the floor, Seton Hall just had no answers. The first possession, UConn had 3 rebounds before finally hitting a 3-pointer. And Donovan Clingan was like a monster. They gave him like a little 5-minute breather. And when they took that 5-minute breather, UConn had like an 8-point lead. And this is the first time Seton Hall caught up. Then he got into foul trouble in the first half. They took him out for like the last 5 minutes. And that's how Seton Hall ended up taking the lead. He comes back out. He's dominating again. And he twists his ankle while getting his third foul. And after that, Seton Hall just took over and just pulled away.
Yeah, they had UConn had like no heart whatsoever. They just looked like they were giving up. I thought the same thing. Where does UConn rank on the rivalry list for Seton Hall? Like, how do you see Seton Hall's basketball rivals? What's the
It's up there.
list?
It's up there. They left the Big East for a while, so they weren't too much roll with them. But the funny thing is Danny Hurley.
That's
I
right.
mean, I still remember Danny Hurley playing for Seton Hall early '90s.
Yeah.
I was sitting near the student section, and they kept heckling him over like a toilet he broke while living an off-campus apartment. And of course, we also saw Bobby Hurley Sr. there at the game yesterday.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
That's awesome.
and he's a New Jersey high school coach legend. I mean,
Right.
I don't think any coach won more games than him in New Jersey than him.
Do you get the same treatment from the Seton Hall fans as you do at like the Mets game? Are you a properly you get the red carpet rolled out for you properly and treated like the legend that you are? Or is
Well, the Mets don't roll out a red carpet for me. Yeah, Seton Hall does though.
Seton Hall does? Do
Yeah.
they, like officially they do, but like do the fans the fans show you love and all that sort of thing? You're
Oh yeah,
I saw
they,
Jinx is sitting by you. Jinx, is he? Give me the difference between like how Frank is treated at Mets games versus Seton Hall basketball games. Is there a difference, or is it just like the exact same experience?
It's completely night and day. It's actually a really good question. So at a Mets game, it's fend for yourself. Good luck in the wild. Fans come up, they're ruthless, whatever. I'm literally full-time security. The concourse is insane. You're just on your own. So Frank and I have to defend ourselves. At Seton Hall, they come out to the road with our passes, meet us on the street, walk us all the way down to the court, and they take 2 chairs and put them directly behind the photographers so that Frank and I have ample room. So we're not even sitting front row. We sit in front of front row on the court,
Oh my
which
God.
led to that play yesterday from Dre Davis with the and one, and he started dapping us up.
Yeah, that was awesome. That was awesome. I was watching it live and I saw it before the clip even made it on the internet. I did like the Leonardo DiCaprio thing. I was like, that's freaking Jinx. I got so excited.
The craziest part too, Titus, is afterward they send us the nicest thank you note. Like we did them the biggest favor in the world when literally they gave us the red carpet.
Was
awesome.
Is this Shaheen Holloway's doing? Has this always been the case at Seton Hall? Like,
it's something I just reached out to them last year. I started reaching out to them.
oh, okay.
And I saw the first pitch of the baseball game. Believe it or not, I mean, 50 years ago, my grandfather's cousin was president of Seton Hall, Monsignor Edward Fleming.
Wow.
And he actually, when he was the president of Seton Hall, did a lot of work in helping to resurrect the sports programs. And probably he's the reason Seton Hall is a Division I school as opposed to being like Division II or III and just fading into the back. His contribution helped really like Seton Hall.
So you're like literally,
program.
yeah, you're like literally royalty at Seton Hall, not just the figurative royalty. I mean, you have ties that deep. That's incredible. What about TJ was telling me the court storming situation is not great there though. That the security is a little tight.
Oh, I'm talking about they got the biggest security guards. They about 2 minutes left. They came down on the court, and one of them just like grabbed one of us. Like I mean, there was a couple that slipped by, and it wasn't a big student section. It's break time, but this one guy like grabbed one, and I just like grabbed him like he was like a linebacker, and just like tackled him. I mean, there was no way the court was going to be rushed. They were ready. They were stopping them, and there was no court storming there whatsoever. I mean, if security wasn't looking the other way and they kind of wanted to let it happen, it would have happened. But there was no way they were going to let that happen.
They had the look of like the 2001 Ravens defensive line when they came out, and people were trying to like talk to them a little bit. They wouldn't respond to anyone, and that's
this one guy was looked like he looked like a linebacker.
He looked like Primary Lewis. And that's where, if you watch the video I took, you'll see one guy makes an incredible juke and gets through. Everyone else gets stopped at the line. And then I put Frank down in the chair and was like, just stay put, stay put. You don't want to get ambushed.
Yeah, I wanted to sit down because I didn't want anyone like running over me.
Yeah.
And then this one guy like had grabbed one guy, like picked him up and put him back down. I mean, he picked him up off his feet, and it was just like, no, you're not going anywhere. And then there was another guy that was like in a headlock.
Oh my God, that's incredible.
I mean, no, there was going to be no court storming. They weren't doing that. Nope.
What's
that security just came there? It was like, yeah, just try it.
What are your feelings for Kevin Willard? How he left and went to Maryland? Have we moved on? Like we don't care anymore, or is he still a guy that we're rooting for his downfall?
I just hope
yeah,
he actually never got. He never, despite all his success and bluster, Seton Hall never got to the Sweet 16 with him.
Yeah.
So goodbye. See you later. I hope that Shaheem Holloway, who is a Seton Hall guy, he's a Jersey guy. I mean, this guy has got the right personality.
Yeah.
They just he. I don't like the fact that he was talking about the NILs as being a problem, but it probably is a problem. But I just don't want him saying it.
Yeah.
But if they could get some good players here, I think he can make it a fun program. I think he's a good coach. The St. Peter's run tells you that.
I love seeing you happy, Frank. It's nice to see you. Seton Hall basketball seems to make you so happy, and
I mean, it's not one of those things where I expect him to ever win. It's just, I mean, with the Dolphins, the Devils, the Mets, I just want to win, and I need that. I need one of those three teams to win. Need it.
Last thing before I let you go, you have a keen eye for sports, obviously, and you can tell when you're seeing good athletes and bad athletes and everything in between. There's a lot of chatter around the company about a potential New York office versus Chicago office basketball game. Give me your thoughts, Frank, how this would shake out. Who do you like? Who in the New York office is good? Just give me your general thoughts on if the Barstool New York office played Barstool Chicago.
Office, that's going to be very tough for us to win, but if you have to bow out because you'd obviously be a ringer.
Jinx can play though. Jinx can play.
Right here.
Yeah.
This guy right here against the rest of the Chicago office, he could kick her ass.
Yeah. Yeah, Jinx is the secret weapon that no one seems to be talking about. He would be everyone's like trying to get Pat Bev on the New York team, which doesn't make any sense to me, but Jinx has a legitimate claim.
I mean, yeah, he doesn't have any. I mean, how many more years is he going to actually be in the league?
Right.
I mean, he's only good. He's on a 76ers team that could possibly win this year. Maybe he joins us and then it's Jinx and Pat Bev crushing everyone. They win by 20 points.
Frank, appreciate you making time, man. Good to hear your perspective. And wish you luck with Seton Hall basketball. It's been fun to watch. I like Shaheen Holloway as well, and I don't think this team is national title good, but they're fun.
He has a great personality.
Yeah,
he's someone I really want to see successful.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks so much. Have a happy holiday. You got the Santa hat on as well. We're twinsies. Love that. Appreciate it, Frank.
All right. Thanks.
All right. Thank you to Frank the Tank. I got to be honest, TJ, never actually thought when I came to Barstool that Frank would appear on the show. Not that I didn't want him to appear on the show. I just never would have dreamed a scenario where I would think, who I have to get on the show is Frank the Tank.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, he's a Seton Hall basketball super fan. He is the Seton Hall guy. So
sure. Maybe it's
who's number two? Who would number two be?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just his professionalism. When I texted him to see if he would come on the show, it was like an immediate response, yes, no questions asked. So maybe he envisioned himself being on the show one day, even if he didn't.
When I announced I was coming to Barstool. He was part of the announcement video where he was rebounding for me, and he was also he was heckling me as I was shooting. Yeah, love Frank, absolutely love Frank. Great having him on the show. All right, a few things before we go. First of all, Eric Montross passed away, and I didn't talk about it last show because I wanted to collect my thoughts, and it happened like right before we recorded last show. The news broke, and I wanted some time to collect my thoughts. And basically, the thoughts I collected are just that it sucks, and I'm very sad about it. And My memories of Eric Montross. So Eric Montross is from Indianapolis. He's an Indy guy. Went to North Carolina. Brandon was asking me about it. I don't really fully know the story as to why he went to North Carolina and not Indiana, because Brandon was like, if he's from Indy, wasn't the early 90s, late 80s, that's like Bob Knight's heyday. Like, why did he not go to IU? If I remember, like, IU had Alan Henderson coming out of Indianapolis, and I don't know if he was the same age as Montross. Damon Bailey, I think, was the same age as Eric I think Damon Bailey definitely won Mr. Basketball, but I don't think Montross did, and I think it's because Damon Bailey and him were the same age. And he was going to Indiana, so I don't know how much that played into it. But the theory that I would believe most is that Eric Montross is like the nicest guy in the world. Bob Knight was an asshole. Dean Smith is like the nicest guy in the world, and he was like, I would rather play for Dean Smith, and that's why he went to North Carolina. But I bring up Montross being from Indy because he was the first guy I remember when I was growing up watching basketball, and I would just watch any game that was on television. I would stop and watch and just soak it all in. And in 1993, he wins a national championship. I'm 6 years old. I do remember that tournament run. I remember the Weber timeout. I'm old enough to at that point to remember all that stuff. And I remember Montross as I'm watching him at North Carolina, 93, 92, like the whole time he was there, really. My dad pointed out that he was from Indy, and he actually played for my dad. My dad coached him when he was a freshman. He went to Park Tudor High School. My dad was the coach there. Coach Titus coached him as a freshman, and then he transferred to Lawrence North, which is the high school that Greg Oden and Mike Conley went to, and they had some dudes through the years. But my dad points out, like, as we're watching, we'll just be watching a random North Carolina game, and he's like, you see that guy right there? Like, I coached him. And I say all that to say that Eric Montross was the first guy I remember cheering for solely because he was from Indiana. It was the first time where I was like, I guess I'm a North Carolina fan now, because the fact that my dad knows this guy and he's so good, and he's got nothing but great things to say about him. I just remember watching Eric Montross and being so excited that a guy from Indiana was on that stage, and that's kind of who he always was to me. Now, as he got older and he started calling basketball games from North Carolina, he would, like, when I was at Ohio State, we played North Carolina all the time. I don't know how or why, but it felt like we played them like 5 times in 4 years. That's not true, but it felt that way. And Montross was always just like so affable to everybody, and like he would talk to everybody on the other team. Or he would talk to like Coach Mata and all of our players, and like he was just I didn't know him personally, so like I can't really add that context to it all. But I just wanted to echo the sentiment that everyone else seems to have, which is that he was just a great basketball player, but an all around awesome dude. And I don't think him passing, unfortunately, was like a huge shock, because I had heard throughout the summer that he was not doing great, and the season starts, and you just kind of don't really hear any updates, and maybe not everyone's mind does, but my mind always goes to the worst. And I don't want to pretend like I was completely stunned when I saw the news, but at the same time, the finality of it and all that is an absolute gut punch, and the loss is immense. And I don't know. That's basically all I have on Eric Montross, though. I was just as like it affected me more than I thought it would. I'd put it that way. Maybe it's just more of like my own midlife crisis maybe I'm going through, of just like, fuck, I'm getting old or whatever. But he's the first guy I remember wearing a jersey of a team that I didn't necessarily care about one way or another, but suddenly I was like, I'm gonna cheer for that team because I like that guy played for my dad and is from Indiana, and won a state championship at Lawrence North and was an All-American and all that. Eric Montross ruled. Great dude. Sucks. That's all I can say about that. 2 other things. Washington State and Oregon State are joining the West Coast Conference in basketball. That was news that broke since we last did a show. Not in football. I think they're going to continue to just like do their own little scheduling, I guess, or they're going to play each other 15 times a year or something in football. I don't know what they're going to do with that. But the basketball belief, I think most people seem to think that they were going to partner up with the Mountain West, so them joining the West Coast Conference in basketball moving forward for however many years. I forget I don't have it in front of me, whatever the agreement was. is a little bit of a disappointment because the Mountain West is the better conference. I agree. I think those two schools joining the Mountain West made more sense in my head, but I also don't hate this at all because the West Coast Conference is a great basketball conference. It's not looking like it's going to be as great this year, but I want Gonzaga to have other big boys to go up against. Now, Oregon State and Washington State, of course, are not blue bloods of college basketball, so you could maybe roll your eyes at something like that, but they should be better than the rest of the West Coast Conference. Like, they should be able to theoretically step into the West Coast Conference and not run the league, but at least give Gonzaga shouldn't have physical advantages at every position anymore, at least. And they have experience like going on the road and playing at UCLA and at the McHale Center in Tucson, and like these are programs that are familiar with that, to where you would like to believe that they will give Gonzaga the test that Gonzaga needs now that BYU's out of the conference and St. Mary's is kind of the only program that feels like they can compete with Gonzaga. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it all actually shakes out, like whether Wazoo and Oregon State can be that. But that's, if they can, I will really, really like this, even though them going to the Mountain West made more sense in terms of like that being the way better conference, and it felt like more of the permanent partnership. If they had gone to the Mountain West, it felt like you kind of take all of that, rebrand it, or maybe you don't. Maybe you just call it the Mountain West and the Pac-12 is officially dead. Or you want to call it the Pac Mountain or the Mountain Pat, whatever the fuck you want to call it. I don't care. But it felt like if they did that route, that would have been the more permanent solution. But the temporary part of this, if Oregon State and Washington State can basically just be like serviceable, what's the boxing term? Tomato cans? Is that what they call? What's the... if they can just be serviceable guys to tomato cans, you get the shit kicked out of you. If they can give a decent fight to Gonzaga, I'm all for this, because Gonzaga needs as many contenders as they can get in the West Coast Conference. Only other thing I got, Kentucky-Louisville tonight. Everybody listening and watching already knows what happened, and what happened is Louisville. They won. Holy shit, they won? Louisville pulled off the ups? No, they didn't. There's no way they won. The lead up to this game has been...
no way.
There's no way. There's no way, right? They couldn't possibly. I saw Kenny Payne's quote. I don't know if you saw this, TJ, that he said, John Calipari wants to kick my ass or like beat me by 1,000, and I just want to beat him by 1. And Louisville fans are like, God damn, what is wrong with this guy? And then I saw that Louisville is piping in crowd noise to prepare for the game that they are playing at home. They are playing it at the KFC Yum Center. They're playing Kentucky at home, and to prepare for the game, they are piping in crowd noise, either because they're not used to having a big crowd at the games or because they anticipate all the fans being Kentucky fans.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Damn.
I remember once upon a time people in the Commonwealth trying to tell me that was the best rivalry in college basketball. I told them you were crazy, and I stand by that. And I don't know. I'll watch tonight. I mean, it can be a good game from time to time, and I think Louisville, there is a world where Louisville pulls off a miracle. I just don't think it's this world. But also, maybe they did. Maybe they pulled it off. All right, that's it. That's the last show of 2023. Thank you to Frank for joining us, but also thank you to everybody watching and listening and following along. And yeah, I have a lot of fun doing this show, but it's also sometimes, I apologize to anybody that wants more out of this show. I don't know. I'm getting in my insecure feelings a little bit as we're approaching the holidays here, but it is with mostly sports, and I'm doing the Yak, and TJ's got a million responsibilities and all that. It has become a little difficult to figure out like where this puzzle piece of what this show is fits in the greater picture and all that, and like when we can record stuff and who we can record it with and all those sorts of things. So I say that just to apologize that because I do sometimes get in my head about it that sometimes we don't have a ton of guests, and sometimes I have ideas for segments, but like I can't make those segments work because something came up with some other show I'm doing, and I got to work on that instead and all that sort of thing. But I will at least promise you this: as long as we're doing this show and as long as college basketball season's going on, I can at least sit down and tell you my thoughts on all these college basketball teams I'm watching. So I enjoy doing it. I appreciate everybody that's been along for the ride, even the Purdue fans that continue to harass my father every time there's a new Purdue basketball tweet. I just get tagged in it, and they're like, show your dad this, show your dad this. Can't stress enough, he doesn't give a fuck. He will find a way to not care. But no, it makes it fun. He deserves it. I will say he talks a lot of shit. You can talk shit back to him. But I'm just telling you, he is unflappable. But yeah, I appreciate everybody supporting the show, watching the show, listening to the show, all that sort of thing. And hope everyone has an enjoyable holiday, and we will see you in the new year.